We have traveled thousands of miles. Ever known.
You are thieves.
It's the only barrier. Mother of God.
What if the Great Wall of China wasn't just built to keep out invaders, but something far more terrifying? In 2016's epic fantasy The Great Wall, Matt Damon faces an ancient army unlike anything you've seen before. Today on S Film Studio, we're diving into the movie review and hidden facts behind this massive East meets West blockbuster. During the Song Dynasty, under the rule of Emperor Renzong, AD 1010 A 1063, a group of 20 mercenaries travel north of the Great Wall in search of black powder. Along the way, they are chased by cotton bandits, who kill several of them. The survivors hide in a cave but are attacked by a strange monster. Only William, Matt Damon, and Tovar, Pedro Pascal, manage to survive, with William cutting off the creature's hand. They decide to keep the severed arm as proof. The next morning, the two stumble upon the Great Wall of China, where they are captured by soldiers from a secretive military group called the Nameless Order, led by General Zhao, Zhang Yimou, and strategist Wang Lao. The Nameless Order was created by the imperial court as a special division trained only to fight against mysterious creatures called the Tati, which rise every 60 years. When the officers see the severed monster's hand, they realize the attack is coming much sooner than expected. Suddenly, a horde of Tata launches an assault on the wall, and the different troops of the Order rush into battle. The Nameless Order has 5 units: the Bear Troop, Close Combat; the Crane Troop, Acrobatic Spear Fighters; the Eagle Troop, Archers; the Tiger Troop, Siege Weapons; and the Deer Troop, Cavalry. Many soldiers are lost, but eventually the Tati Queen recalls her forces. During the battle, William and Tovar fight bravely and even save the life of Peng Yong, a young soldier. Their skills earn them the respect of General Zhao and Commander Lin Jingtian, leader of the Crane Troop. Later, William and Tovar meet Sir Ballard, Willem Dafoe, a European who had come to China 25 years earlier searching for black powder, but was captured and has since been kept alive as a teacher of English and Latin. Together, the three foreigners plan to steal the black powder and escape. Meanwhile, strategist Wang explains to William that the monsters they saw are Tati, which, according to legend, were born from a green meteor that crashed into Gu Mountain 2,000 years earlier. The Chinese believe the Tati were sent as punishment from the gods for an emperor's greed. Ever since, they have attacked China once every 60 years, and the Nameless Order has trained for generations to stop them. That night, 2 Tati sneak to the top of the wall and kill several guards. General Zhao and Lin lead the Deer Troop to investigate but are ambushed. Though the Tati are killed, Zhao is badly wounded and dies from his injuries, leaving Commander Lin in charge of the Nameless Order. Soon after, an envoy from the capital arrives with an ancient scroll that suggests the Tati can be weakened by magnets. Wang realizes that the stone William carried all along was a magnet, which may explain how he killed the first Tati. William suggests they test this theory by capturing a live Tati. He delays his escape to help with the plan, frustrating Tovar and Ballard. During the next massive attack, the soldiers use secret black powder rockets, which the foreigners had never seen before. Despite heavy losses, they succeed in capturing a Tati alive and prove the magnet theory correct. The creature is sent to the capital with the envoy. Not long after, the soldiers discover a tunnel at the base of the wall that the Tati Queen used to send her army toward the capital. While Lin leads a search, Tovar and Ballard betray William, knocking him out in order to escape with the powder. William is arrested, but Peng Yong speaks up for him, convincing the others to spare his life. Still, William is imprisoned. Meanwhile, Ballard betrays Tovar and escapes alone, but he is captured by cotton bandits. When they mishandle the black powder, they blow themselves up, killing Ballard as well. Tovar, after reclaiming some horses, is caught again by the Deer Troop. At the capital, the envoy presents the captured Tati to the emperor, but the monster awakens and signals the queen, who leads the entire horde to attack the city. Realizing the danger, Commander Lin orders the use of newly designed hot air balloons to pursue the Tati. Before leaving, Lin asks for William to be freed. Strategist Wang tells William to go back to the outside world and warn others, but William chooses to stay. He boards the last balloon with Wang and Peng Yong. They arrive in time to save Lin, whose balloon has crash-landed in the capital. Together, they make a desperate plan, use the captured Tati as bait by tying explosives to it and sending it to the queen. On the way, a swarm of Tati breaks through the sewers, and Peng sacrifices himself to protect the others. In this final battle, William, Lin, and Wang climb a tall tower to shoot a black powder rocket at the queen. Wang is killed in the attempt, and William's arrows are deflected by the Tati drones. At the last moment, Lin throws her spear, guided by William tossing the magnet into the horde, which clears the way. The spear hits its target, detonating the explosives and killing the queen. With the queen destroyed, the rest of the Tati freeze in place, ending the invasion. After the battle, William is offered a reward but instead chooses to free Tovar from captivity, giving up the black powder. Annoyed but relieved, Tovar joins William, and with the help of Chinese cavalry, they begin their long journey back to Europe. Meanwhile, Commander Lin, now promoted to general, watches from the wall as they leave. William jokes with Tovar, saying he doesn't trust him to travel alone, as the two continued their uneasy but loyal partnership. The Great Wall is a 2016 monster action film directed by Zhang Yimou. The screenplay was written by Carlo Bernard, Doug Miro, and Tony Gilroy, based on a story by Max Brooks, Edward Zwick, and Marshall Herskovitz. The movie is a collaboration between American and Chinese studios and stars Matt Damon, Jing Tian, Pedro Pascal, Willem Dafoe, and Andy Lau. The story follows two European mercenary soldiers, played by Damon and Pascal, who are captured by the Chinese army at the Great Wall after coming in search of gunpowder. They eventually join forces with the Chinese warriors to fight against a massive alien monster threat. This film also marks Zhang Yimou's first English-language project. Filming began on March 30, 2015, in Qingdao, China. The movie premiered in Beijing on December 6, 2016. It was later released in China on December 16, 2016, in the United States on February 17, 2017, by Universal Pictures, and in Japan on April 14, 2017, by Toei. Although the film received mixed reviews from critics, it went on to earn $334.9 million worldwide. However, due to its very high budget, it was still considered a box office failure, with reported losses of up to $75 million. Overview of the casting process. The casting for The Great Wall, 2016, directed by Zhang Yimou, represented a unique blend of Hollywood star power and Chinese talent, reflecting the film's status as a co-production between American and Chinese studios. As the most expensive film ever shot entirely in China, with a budget of $150 million, the casting decisions were driven by the need to appeal to both Eastern and Western audiences. The process began with Legendary Pictures, which aimed to create a fantasy epic set during the Song Dynasty, involving European mercenaries defending the Great Wall from mythical creatures. Producers like Charles Roven played a key role in assembling the cast, emphasizing a mix of international appeal and cultural authenticity. Roven explained in interviews that the script's core concept involved outsiders arriving in China, which naturally led to casting Western actors in specific roles while prioritizing Chinese stars for the indigenous characters. The casting team, led by John Papsidra, known for his work on films like The Dark Knight, and supported by local Chinese casting directors such as Po Ping Ou, conducted extensive auditions in both Los Angeles and Beijing to ensure a diverse ensemble. This dual approach allowed for scouting talent from Hollywood's A-list while taping into China's burgeoning film industry, where actors like Andy Lau and Jing Tian were already established superstars. The process was not without challenges, including language barriers and the need to balance star egos with narrative demands. Zhang Yimou, the director, was deeply involved in final approvals, often prioritizing actors who could handle the physical rigors of the action sequences, such as archery and sword fighting. Pre-production casting calls focused on performers with martial arts experience or the ability to learn quickly, given the film's heavy reliance on practical effects and stunt work. For instance, the Crane Troupe, an all-female unit in the story, required actresses proficient in wire work and choreography, leading to auditions that tested athleticism as much as acting prowess. The overall strategy was to cast roles that embodied the film's theme of cross-cultural collaboration, mirroring the behind-the-scenes partnerships between legendary East and China Film Group. This resulted in a cast list verified as complete on platforms like IMDb, featuring over 100 credited actors, from leads to background performers portraying soldiers and monsters. The casting timeline spanned several months in 2014 to 2015, with principal photography starting in March 2015 in Qingdao, China. Early announcements highlighted Matt Damon's involvement, which set the tone for the international flavor, but also sparked debates about representation. Lead role: Matt Damon as William Garron. Matt Damon's casting as William Garron, the Irish mercenary and archer who becomes a reluctant hero, was one of the most pivotal decisions in the film's production. Damon, already a global icon from franchises like Bourne and Oceans, was approached early in the development phase. Producer Charles Roven recounted how Damon's name came up during script revisions, as the character's arc from greedy outsider to defender of humanity required an actor with charisma and physicality. Damon himself expressed enthusiasm for working with Zhang Yimou, citing the director's previous works like Hero and House of Flying Daggers as inspirations. In interviews at New York Comic Con 2016, Damon described the casting call as a dream opportunity, noting that he underwent rigorous training in archery and Mandarin phrases to authentically portray his character's cultural immersion. The decision to cast Damon was strategic. His star power was seen as essential for securing Western distribution and box office draw, especially since the film was Legendary's first major push into the Chinese market. However, this choice ignited controversy, with critics accusing the film of whitewashing by placing a white actor at the center of a Chinese historical fantasy. Damon addressed this in multiple press appearances, insisting that his role was always conceived as European, not a recast from a Chinese character. He told the Associated Press that the backlash stemmed from misleading trailers and posters that emphasized his image, rather than the ensemble nature of the story. Director Zhang Yimou echoed this, stating in 2016 that Damon's character was integral to the plot's exploration of East-West encounters, and that casting him was about narrative fidelity, not erasure. Damon's preparation involved months of physical conditioning, including learning to shoot arrows on horseback, which he practiced on set in China. His chemistry with co-stars was tested during table reads in Los Angeles, ensuring that his outsider persona contrasted effectively with the disciplined Chinese military figures. This casting not only elevated the film's profile but also highlighted the challenges of cross-cultural productions, where market considerations often intersect with artistic choices. Chinese leads: Jing Tian as Commander Lin Mei. Jing Tian's selection as Commander Lin Mei, the fierce leader of the Crane Troop, marked a significant milestone for Chinese actresses in international cinema. Tian, who had risen to prominence in films like The Warring States and Police Story 2013, was cast after impressing Zhang Yimou with her poisoned athletic ability. As the female lead, her role was central to the film's empowerment themes, portraying a woman commanding an elite all-female unit defending the wall from Tao Tai monsters. Zhang emphasized in interviews that Lin Mei was the true hero of the story, not Damon's character, countering whitewashing claims by pointing out that Tian's role drives much of the plot. The casting process for Tian involved auditions focusing on her command of English, as the film featured bilingual dialogue, and her proficiency in action sequences. She trained extensively in wire fu and spear fighting, drawing from her background in dance and martial arts. Tian's casting was part of a broader effort to showcase Chinese talent, with producers seeking actors who could hold their own against Hollywood heavyweights. In behind-the-scenes footage, Tian discussed the honor of working with Zhang, whom she called a master storyteller, and how the role allowed her to represent strong Asian women on a global stage. Her performance was praised for its intensity, blending vulnerability with unyielding resolve, and her chemistry with Damon added layers to the intercultural romance subplot. This choice underscored the film's commitment to authentic Chinese representation, as Tian was one of several homegrown stars selected to anchor the narrative. Chinese leads: Andy Lau as strategist Wang. Andy Lau, a Hong Kong superstar with over 160 films to his credit, was cast as strategist Wang, the wise military advisor whose intellect complements the physical battles. Lau's involvement was announced early, leveraging his massive fanbase in Asia to boost the film's domestic appeal. Known for roles in Infernal Affairs and House of Flying Daggers, Lau brought gravitas and experience to the part, which required nuanced performances amid high-stakes strategy sessions. The casting team valued his ability to convey authority without overshadowing the ensemble, and Loehr underwent costume fittings and dialect coaching to embody a Song dynasty scholar. In interviews, Loehr shared that he was drawn to the project by Zhang's vision of blending historical elements with fantasy, seeing it as a chance to collaborate on a scale unprecedented in Chinese cinema. His role involved intricate scenes with practical effects, such as coordinating defenses against the monster hordes, and his casting helped legitimize the film in the eyes of Chinese audiences skeptical of Hollywood influences. Loehr's preparation included studying ancient Chinese military texts, adding depth to his portrayal. This decision reflected the producer's strategy to pair international stars with Asian icons, ensuring cultural balance. Supporting cast: Pedro Pascal as Pero Tovar. Pedro Pascal's casting as Pero Tovar, the Spanish mercenary and comic relief companion to Damon's character, added a layer of humor and camaraderie to the film. Pascal, fresh off his breakout in Game of Thrones, was selected for his charisma and ability to handle action comedy. The role was written as a roguish figure motivated by greed, providing contrast to the more honorable Chinese warriors. Pascal auditioned in Los Angeles, impressing with his swordplay and improvisational skills during chemistry tests with Damon. In 2016 panels, Pascal joked about the physical demands, including learning to ride horses in full armor under China's harsh weather conditions. His casting was part of the Western contingent, aimed at broadening appeal, but he emphasized in interviews the film's focus on unity across cultures. Pascal's performance, marked by witty banter and fierce loyalty, enriched the buddy dynamic central to the mercenaries' arc. Supporting cast: Willem Dafoe as Sir Ballard. Willem Dafoe, renowned for his intense portrayals in films like Platoon and Spider-Man, was cast as Sir Ballard, a mysterious prisoner who holds key secrets about the monsters. Dafoe's selection brought a veteran presence, with his eccentric energy fitting the character's enigmatic backstory. The casting process involved Dafoe reading for the role remotely, followed by on-set rehearsals in China. Dafoe discussed in press events how the part allowed him to explore themes of exile and redemption, drawing from his theater background for the more dialogue-heavy scenes. His physical transformation, including a disheveled appearance, was achieved through makeup tests, and his interactions with the younger cast members added mentorship elements off-screen. Other key Chinese supporting roles. The film's ensemble included prominent Chinese actors like Zhang Yimou as General Zhao, the stern leader of the Bear Troop, whose casting emphasized military discipline. Yimou, a respected figure in Chinese cinema from films like The Taking of Tiger Mountain, was chosen for his commanding presence. Eddie Peng portrayed Commander Wu of the Tiger Troop, bringing athleticism from his action hero background and rise of the legend. Peng's auditions focused on his stunt capabilities, including harness work for wall-jumping sequences. Lin Gangxin as Commander Chen of the Eagle Troop added youthful energy, selected after impressing in chemistry reads with Yan. Lu Han, a pop idol turned actor, played Peng Yong, a timid soldier who grows heroic, appealing to younger demographics. His casting leveraged his massive following from EXO, blending idol culture with film. Wang Zhangkai, another idol from TF Boys, appeared in a smaller role, highlighting the trend of casting K-pop-style stars for market draw. These choices ensured the Nameless Order's ranks felt authentically Chinese, with actors trained in traditional Washu. Casting controversies and whitewashing debates. The casting of The Great Wall sparked intense debates, particularly around Matt Damon's lead role, accused of perpetuating the white savior trope. Critics like Constance Wu argued that placing a white actor in a Chinese epic reinforced racist myths, where Western heroes save Asian civilizations. Wu's open letter on social media highlighted how such decisions marginalize Asian leads in their own stories. The controversy erupted with the trailer's release in July 2016, leading to hashtags like #whitewashed-out. Damon defended the choice, stating in interviews that the role was always European, and the backlash was fueled by clickbait media misrepresenting the plot. Director Zhang Yimou responded similarly, asserting that the film celebrated Chinese heroism, with Damon's character learning from Asian counterparts rather than dominating them. Despite this, outlets like The Atlantic critiqued Hollywood's economic motivations, suggesting Damon's casting was a bid for global box office amid China's rising influence. The debate extended to broader issues of representation, with some praising the film's majority Chinese cast as progress, while others saw it as tokenism. Post-release reviews noted that the story subverted expectations, with Chinese characters driving the victory, but the initial outcry influenced perceptions. Role of the casting directors. John Papsidra, the primary casting director, brought his expertise from blockbuster franchises to curate the international ensemble. Collaborating with Chinese counterparts like Ellen Chen and Victoria Thomas, Papsidra focused on diversity, conducting global searches for roles requiring specific ethnicities. Interviews reveal Papsidra's emphasis on authenticity, such as casting actors with real martial arts backgrounds for troupe members. The process involved video auditions for remote talents and in-person sessions in Beijing for local hires. Papsidra's team also handled uncredited roles, like the thousands of extras portraying soldiers, sourced from Chinese military academies for realism. This meticulous approach ensured the film's scale felt epic, with casting decisions impacting everything from costume design to stunt coordination. Auditions and selection criteria. Auditions for The Great Wall were rigorous, blending traditional acting tests with physical evaluations. For lead roles, candidates like Damon and Tian underwent multiple rounds, including script reads and improvisations to gauge chemistry. Supporting actors faced stunt auditions, such as simulating battles on mock walls built in studios. Selection criteria prioritized versatility, with language skills being crucial for bilingual scenes. Zhang Yimou personally oversaw final callbacks, often rewriting lines based on actors' strengths. For instance, Liu Han's musical background influenced his character's motivational speeches. The process also included cultural sensitivity training for Western cast members to foster on-set harmony. Cultural considerations in casting. Casting reflected the film's theme of cultural exchange, with deliberate choices to avoid stereotypes. Chinese roles were filled by actors from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, representing regional diversity. Producers consulted historians to ensure accurate portrayals, influencing decisions like casting Han Yu for his resemblance to historical generals. The inclusion of idols like Liu Han and Wang Zhangkai targeted youth markets, blending tradition with modernity. This approach aimed to honor Chinese heritage while appealing globally, though it faced scrutiny for potentially commodifying culture. Impact of casting on the film's reception. The casting choices significantly shaped The Great Wall's reception, with the ensemble's diversity praised in some quarters for fostering international collaboration. However, the whitewashing controversy overshadowed positive aspects, contributing to mixed reviews. 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Damon's presence boosted U.S. box office but alienated some audiences, while Chinese stars like Lau ensured strong domestic performance. Ultimately, the casting highlighted evolving dynamics in global filmmaking, where market demands intersect with calls for equity. The Great Wall, 2016, movie. A comprehensive analysis production. The Great Wall represents an unprecedented collaboration between Hollywood and Chinese cinema, marking a significant milestone in international filmmaking cooperation. The film is an American and Chinese co-production starring Matt Damon, Jing Tian, Pedro Pascal, Willem Dafoe, and Andy Lau, and was conceived as an ambitious attempt to bridge Eastern and Western entertainment markets. Legendary Pictures made a strategic decision to work with Chinese talent and investors and altered their production plan to better cater to Chinese audiences. The film was funded through a complex partnership involving Legendary Entertainment, China Film Group, Universal Pictures, and Levision Pictures, demonstrating the evolving landscape of global film financing. This collaborative approach reflected the industry's recognition of China's growing importance as both a market and a creative partner in international cinema. The project originated from Legendary Pictures' desire to create content that would resonate with both Western and Chinese audiences. The production was designed as what industry insiders call a tentpole film, intended to be a major blockbuster that could anchor a studio's release schedule and generate significant revenue across multiple markets. The ambitious scope of the project reflected the confidence that producers had in the growing appetite for large-scale, international co-productions. The film brought together an impressive roster of talent from multiple countries and film industries. The film was directed by a big-time Chinese director, Zhang Yimou, and starred Hollywood stars Matt Damon and Willem Dafoe alongside Chinese film stars in an attempt to capture Chinese audiences. This casting strategy was deliberately designed to appeal to diverse international markets while maintaining authenticity in its Chinese cultural elements. The production also featured extensive collaboration between Chinese and international technical crews, creating a truly multinational filmmaking environment that required careful coordination and cultural sensitivity. The complexity of managing such a diverse production team would prove to be one of the film's most significant logistical challenges, requiring innovative approaches to communication and workflow management. Development and pre-production. The development of The Great Wall began with the recognition that China's box office was becoming increasingly important to global film success. Zhang Yimou's first English-language film was conceived as a vehicle that could showcase Chinese culture and mythology to international audiences while providing Chinese viewers with a blockbuster experience comparable to major Hollywood productions. The reason I took The Great Wall project is that there have been requests in the last 10 or 20 years. Now the production is big enough and really appealing. And, very importantly, it has Chinese elements in it, Zhang Yimou explained, highlighting the long gestation period of the project and the director's commitment to authentic cultural representation. The screenplay underwent extensive development to balance Western storytelling conventions with Chinese cultural elements and mythological traditions. The story by Max Brooks, Edward Zwick, and Marshall Herskovitz was adapted into a screenplay by Carlo Bernard, Doug Miro, and Tony Gilroy, representing multiple iterations and refinements to achieve the desired cross-cultural appeal. The pre-production phase involved extensive research into Chinese history, mythology, and military traditions to ensure cultural authenticity. The filmmakers consulted with historians and cultural experts to develop the visual language and narrative elements that would resonate with Chinese audiences while remaining accessible to international viewers. This research phase was crucial in establishing the film's unique blend of historical reference and fantasy elements. Casting decisions were made with careful consideration of both star power and cultural representation. Matt Damon's involvement was seen as essential for international marketability, while the extensive Chinese cast was designed to provide authentic cultural grounding and appeal to domestic audiences. The casting process involved auditions and negotiations across multiple countries, reflecting the international scope of the production. The pre-production phase also involved extensive planning for the complex logistical challenges of filming in China with an international cast and crew. This included securing necessary permits, establishing production facilities, and creating communication protocols that could accommodate multiple languages and cultural working styles. The complexity of these preparations foreshadowed the challenges that would emerge during principal photography. Filming principal photography began on March 30, 2015, on location in Qingdao, a coastal city in China's Shandong province that provided the primary setting for the film's extensive production requirements. The filming wrapped on July 23, 2015, representing nearly 4 months of intensive production work that would establish the film as one of the most ambitious international co-productions ever attempted. As of 2015, it was the most expensive film ever shot entirely in China, reflecting both the scale of the production and the significant investment made by all parties involved. The budget considerations were particularly complex given the international nature of the financing and the need to satisfy multiple stakeholders across different markets and cultural contexts. One of the most significant practical challenges during filming was the inability to shoot on the actual Great Wall of China. 3 walls were built during production as they could not shoot on the actual Great Wall. These constructed sets were designed to capture the essence and visual impact of the historical structure while providing the flexibility needed for complex action sequences and special effects work. The construction of those replica wall sections represented a major undertaking in itself, requiring extensive planning and engineering to ensure both visual authenticity and practical functionality. The sets needed to accommodate large-scale battle sequences, elaborate choreography, and the technical requirements of modern filmmaking while maintaining the aesthetic integrity that audiences would expect from a film about this iconic structure. During the filmmaking, the director said the most impressive part for him was the presence of so many translators to handle communication, as he assembled an international crew for the filming. More than 100 on-set translators worked with the various cast and crew members. This detail highlights the unprecedented scale of international collaboration involved in the production and the complex logistical challenges of managing a truly multinational filmmaking operation. The translation requirements extended beyond basic communication to include cultural interpretation and creative collaboration. Technical filmmaking terms, artistic concepts, and performance directions all needed to be accurately conveyed across language barriers, requiring translators with specialized knowledge of film production terminology and practices. The filming process involved extensive coordination between Chinese and international production practices, requiring adaptation and compromise from all parties involved. Different approaches to scheduling, hierarchy, and creative decision-making had to be negotiated and harmonized to ensure efficient production workflow. The action sequences presented particular challenges given their scale and complexity. The film required extensive choreography for battle scenes involving hundreds of performers, complex creature interactions through motion capture and practical effects, and integration of practical and digital elements that would be completed in post-production. Weather conditions and seasonal changes also presented challenges during the extended production schedule. The coastal location in Qingdao provided dramatic backdrops but also introduced variables that required careful scheduling and contingency planning to maintain production momentum. Post-production. The post-production phase of the Great Wall was equally complex and ambitious, requiring extensive visual effects work to bring the film's fantastical elements to life. The creature design for the Tautan monsters required sophisticated digital artistry that could convincingly integrate with the practical performances and environments captured during principal photography. The visual effects work was distributed among multiple facilities, reflecting the international nature of the production and the scale of digital work required. The complexity of the creature animations, large-scale battle sequences, and environmental effects demanded cutting-edge technology and extensive coordination between different post-production teams. Color grading and visual finishing work required particular attention to ensure consistency across the film's diverse visual elements. The combination of practical sets, digital environments, and creature effects needed to be seamlessly integrated to maintain visual coherence throughout the film's running time. The editing process involved balancing the pacing expectations of different international markets while maintaining narrative coherence. The film needed to satisfy both Western and Chinese audience preferences for action pacing, character development, and dramatic structure, requiring careful consideration of cultural differences in storytelling preferences. Sound design and mixing presented unique challenges given the film's bilingual nature and international distribution requirements. The audio post-production needed to accommodate both English and Mandarin dialogue while creating an immersive soundscape that could support the film's epic scale and fantastical elements. The post-production timeline was compressed by the ambitious release schedule, requiring careful coordination and resource allocation to meet international release dates. The complexity of delivering finished versions for different markets, each with specific technical and content requirements, added additional layers of complexity to the post-production workflow. Music. The film's score is composed by Raymond Zhao, the acclaimed composer known for his work on Game of Thrones, Westworld, and Pacific Rim. Zhao's involvement brought significant artistic credibility to the project and ensured that the musical component would match the film's epic scale and cultural ambitions. In composing the score, Zhao wanted to echo the film's bridging of Eastern and Western culture by combining a big Hollywood symphony orchestra with iconic Chinese solo instruments. This approach reflected the film's broader themes of cultural synthesis and provided a musical framework that could support both the Western and Chinese elements of the narrative. The first track, called Nameless Order, was released on December 14, 2016, giving audiences an early preview of the musical approach that would define the entire score. The first track, Nameless Order, sets the tone for the rest of the score. It's a song that is based, according to Zhao, on a 2,000-year-old poem, demonstrating the composer's commitment to authentic cultural integration. The scoring process involved extensive research into traditional Chinese musical instruments and compositional techniques. Zhao worked closely with Chinese musicians and cultural consultants to ensure that the Eastern elements of the score would be authentic and respectful rather than superficial or stereotypical. The score has a lot of percussion and Chinese solo instruments, like flutes, that give it an Eastern feel, creating a unique sonic palette that distinguished the film from typical Hollywood blockbuster scores. This instrumentation provided both cultural authenticity and dramatic effectiveness in supporting the film's epic battle sequences and emotional moments. The recording process involved orchestral sessions in multiple locations, accommodating both the Western Symphony Orchestra components and the specialized Eastern instruments. This complex recording schedule required careful coordination to ensure musical coherence across the different recording sessions and locations. The soundtrack release strategy reflected the film's international distribution approach, with different release dates and promotional campaigns in various markets. The music served as an important promotional tool, helping to establish the film's cultural credentials and artistic ambitions in advance of its theatrical release. Released theatrical, The Great Wall's release strategy reflected its ambitions as an international co-production designed to succeed in multiple markets simultaneously. The Great Wall was released in China on December 16, 2016. It was released on February 17, 2017 in the United States by Universal Pictures, with the Chinese release taking precedence as both a strategic and cultural priority. The decision to release first in China reflected the film's positioning as a Chinese production with international elements rather than a Hollywood film with Chinese characteristics. This approach was designed to maximize the film's appeal to Chinese audiences while building momentum for subsequent international releases. In the Philippines, the film was released by United International Pictures through Columbia Pictures Philippines on January 25, 2017, demonstrating the complex distribution arrangements required for international co-productions. Different distributors handled the film in various territories, each adapting their marketing approaches to local market conditions and cultural preferences. The promotional campaign leading up to release was extensive and internationally coordinated. The Great Wall released its first trailer in July 2016. The trailer shows views of the Great Wall in fog, thousands of soldiers on a battlefield ready for war, and a mysterious monster, as well as the roster views of the cast, including Matt Damon and Andy Lau. The trailer strategy emphasized both the spectacle elements and the star power that would appeal to different audience segments. Musical tie-ins played a significant role in the promotional campaign. A song from Wang Li Hum and Tan YY was released on November 15, 2016. To promote The Great Wall, Bridge of Fate was composed and produced by Wang Li Hum, with lyrics written by Vincent Fang, a longtime collaborator of singer-songwriter Jay Chou. This collaboration brought together established Chinese pop music talent to create promotional content that would resonate with target audiences. Chinese pop diva Jane Zhang released another new English song, Battlefield, and its promotional music video, for The Great Wall on November 22, 2016. The song was composed by King Logan and Maroon 5's keyboardist PJ Morton and written by Yosai Jojo Martin and Jane Zhang. It was produced by Tim Balland. The involvement of major international music industry figures demonstrated the film's cross-cultural ambitions and marketing reach. Universal Pictures and Legendary Entertainment debuted 8 character posters of the film on November 17, 2016. All in all, Legendary spent $120 million on promotion and advertising worldwide. This massive promotional investment reflected the high stakes involved in the film's success and the need to build awareness across multiple international markets simultaneously. The premiere events were strategically positioned to maximize media coverage and cultural impact. The Beijing premiere served as the primary cultural event, emphasizing the film's significance to Chinese cinema and its role in advancing international co-production opportunities. Home media. The film was released for digital download on May 9, 2017, and on DVD, Blu-ray on May 23, 2017. The home media release strategy provided additional revenue opportunities and allowed the film to reach audiences who might not have seen it during its theatrical run. The home media versions included extensive supplementary materials designed to showcase the production's international collaboration and technical achievements, behind-the-scenes documentaries, deleted scenes, and commentary tracks provided insight into the complex production process and cultural exchange that defined the filmmaking experience. Special edition releases in different markets featured region-specific bonus content and packaging designed to appeal to local collectors and film enthusiasts. The Chinese market received special attention with culturally specific promotional materials and packaging that emphasized the film's significance to Chinese cinema history. The digital release strategy accommodated different international markets' preferences for streaming versus purchase options. Various digital platforms offered the film with different pricing structures and availability windows designed to maximize revenue across diverse consumer preferences and economic conditions. International home media releases required careful coordination of content ratings, subtitle options, and cultural sensitivities. Different regions required specific versions that complied with local content regulations while maintaining the film's artistic integrity and commercial appeal. Reception. Box office. The Great Wall grossed $45.5 million in the United States and Canada, and $289.4 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $334.9 million, against a production budget of $150 million. Despite the substantial global gross, the film's financial performance was complicated by its high production and marketing costs. In China, The Great Wall opened on December 16, 2016 and made $24.3 million on its first day and $67.4 million in its opening weekend. In the second weekend, it grossed $26.1 million. While these numbers represented solid performance in absolute terms, they fell short of the expectations that had been established for such a high-profile international co-production. The film went on to gross $170.9 million at the Chinese box office, which is considered a disappointment. The Chinese performance was particularly significant given the film's positioning as a culturally authentic production designed specifically to appeal to Chinese audiences. The United States release faced additional challenges in a competitive marketplace. In the United States and Canada, the film opened alongside A Cure for Wellness and Fist Fight, and was projected to gross $19 million from about 3,200 theaters in its opening weekend. The film met these modest projections but failed to generate the breakthrough success that might have justified its massive investment. It went on to open to $18.1 million, finishing third at the box office, behind holdovers The Lego Batman Movie and 50 Shades Darker, and eventually grossing $45.2 million. The domestic performance represented one of the film's most significant commercial disappointments, particularly given Matt Damon's star power and the extensive promotional campaign. The film joined Terminator Genesis, Warcraft and fellow 2017 release XXX, Return of Xander Cage as the only Hollywood films to earn $100 million in China without making $100 million in the United States. This achievement highlighted both the film's international appeal and the changing dynamics of global box office performance. The financial analysis became more complex when accounting for the full cost structure. In March 2017, The Hollywood Reporter wrote that the film was likely to lose about $75 million due to its underwhelming performance theatrically, as its performance in most major markets, including the United States and Canada, was disappointing. Universal Pictures, which funded about 25% of this film's $150 million production budget, losing around $10 million. The rest of the investors, Legendary Entertainment, China Film Group and Levision Pictures, had an equal loss. Universal also covered almost all of the film's global marketing expenses of more than $80 million, so the studio incurred an even heavier loss. The distribution of losses among multiple investors reflected the complex financing structure that had enabled the production. Critical response. The critical reception of The Great Wall was decidedly mixed, reflecting the challenges inherent in creating a film designed to appeal to multiple cultural markets simultaneously. Deadline reported that The Great Wall received poor reviews from critics, establishing the general critical consensus that would define much of the film's cultural legacy. On Rotten Tomatoes, a review aggregator, the film has an approval rating of 35% based on 238 reviews, and an average rating of 4.90. The website's critical consensus reads, "For a Yimou Zhang film featuring Matt Damon and Willem Dafoe battling ancient monsters, The Great Wall is neither as exciting nor as entertainingly bonkers as one might hope." The critical consensus highlighted the disconnect between the film's ambitious premise and its execution. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 42 out of 100, based on 40 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. The Metacritic score provided additional confirmation of the lukewarm critical reception, though it suggested that some critics found redeeming qualities in the production. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B on an A+ to F scale, indicating that general audiences were somewhat more receptive to the film than professional critics, though still not enthusiastically so. Individual critical responses varied significantly in their assessment of the film's merits and failures. Ignata Vaishnavytsky, writing for the AV Club, gave the film a B on an A to F scale, saying, "There is no logical reason for the film to climax in a tower of stained glass that paints Lin May and William in psychedelic Suspiria lighting, but boy does it look gorgeous in 3D." This review captured the tension between the film's visual achievements and narrative coherence issues. Simon Abrams, a contributor for RogerRabbit.com, gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, summarizing, "The Great Wall is unlike any American blockbuster you've seen, a conservative movie with action set pieces that are actually inventive and thrilling enough to be worthwhile. See it on as big a screen as you can." This more positive assessment emphasized the film's unique qualities and technical achievements. Negative reviews focused on various aspects of the production. Clarence Tsui, writing for The Hollywood Reporter, gave the film a negative review, saying, "The Great Wall is easily the least interesting and involving blockbuster of the respective careers of both its director and star." This criticism highlighted the disappointment felt by critics who expected more from the collaboration between Zhang Yimou and Matt Damon. The critical response revealed broader tensions about international co-productions and cultural authenticity. Many critics struggled to evaluate the film within existing frameworks for either Hollywood blockbusters or Chinese cinema, suggesting that the hybrid nature of the production created new critical challenges. Professional critics also grappled with questions of cultural representation and appropriation that had been raised during the film's development and marketing phases. The critical discourse often focused as much on these cultural and political issues as on the film's artistic merits, reflecting the broader cultural conversations surrounding Hollywood's engagement with international markets. The film also faced unique criticism in Chinese markets, where cultural authenticity carried additional weight. As of July 2017, users of film review website Daban rated The Great Wall 4.9 out of 10. On Mayan, another film review aggregator, the professional score is 4.9 out of 10. These Chinese audience scores suggested that the film's cultural synthesis approach may not have fully satisfied its primary target audience. The critical reception ultimately reflected the inherent challenges of creating entertainment that could satisfy multiple cultural markets simultaneously while meeting the artistic standards expected from established filmmakers and stars. The mixed response highlighted both the ambitions and limitations of international co-production strategies in contemporary cinema. The long-term critical assessment of The Great Wall continues to evolve as film scholars and critics develop new frameworks for evaluating international co-productions and their cultural significance. While the immediate critical response was largely negative, The film's role in advancing international collaboration and its technical achievements may contribute to a more nuanced historical evaluation of its contributions to contemporary cinema. Review and facts: Number 1. Matt Damon has earned his action bona fides with The Martian and The Bourne films. Veteran Chinese filmmaker Zhang Yimou, Raise the Red Lantern, House of Flying Daggers, doing his first film in English, is a world-class master. It's hard to forget his 2008 staging of the opening and closing ceremonies of the Beijing Olympics, so it's exciting just to think of the two teaming up. Reality, sad to say, is a bitch. This co-production between the US and China, the two leading spots on the map for mining gold at box office, is a $150 million mess of muddy 3D computer effects and backward thinking. Even in the Far East, where major local stars such as Hong Kong's Andy Lau are reduced to supporting roles, it still takes a white Hollywood movie star to save the world. Damon plays William, a 12th century European mercenary who's been dragging his ass in a phony ponytail across the deserts of western China looking for the mysterious black powder that can turn citizens of the globe into gun freaks. Aided by his Spanish best friend forever Tovar, Pedro Pascal, Goodwill is hunting for his fortune. But as they push toward the digitized Great Wall to make a deal, they're met by a spray of arrows indicating not so fast. Interlopers. Zhang keeps everything moving in a swirl of color, light and dizzying action, which helpfully distracts from a plot. Credited to 3 screenwriters, that doesn't make lick of sense. A lot of the actors, including Damon and Pascal, speak in a weirdly accented English that at times makes them sound dubbed. You probably won't notice because the stilted dialogue is drowned out by shrieking monster attacks. The Tull, as they're called, look like a combo of dinosaur and orc according to legend. They pounce like giant cockroaches every 60 years to thin out the human population. Not on Damon's watch. Tovar and a European turncoat, played by an understandably confused Willem Dafoe, plan an escape, but count on William to stay and fight the good fight against the aliens. He seems to be developing a thing for Lin Mei, Jing Tian, a female leader of the so-called Nameless Order, which includes a way cool team of armed female aerialists. Despite a few hot looks, however, sexy time is not an option for these two. Besides, it's hard to get it on when these beasties are crawling up the Great Wall, mouths agape and ready to chow down. That's the movie, folks. It plays like a video game in which the goal is to kill as many of these green-blooded monsters as you can before time's up. It's fun for about 10 minutes, and then the tedium seeps in. We do learn that a magnet has the power to lull the creatures to sleep, which is nothing considering that the movie all on its own acts a soporific. Many reviewers in China found it disappointing that all Zhang and Damon came up with is a B-level creature feature with delusions of grandeur in a move Trump would envy. The Chinese government quickly silenced the naysayers. It's getting hard out here for a critic. Number 2. Matt Damon has earned his action bona fides with The Martian and The Bourne films. Veteran Chinese filmmaker Zhang Yimou, Raise the Red Lantern, House of Flying Daggers, doing his first film in English, is a world-class master. It's hard to forget his 2008 staging of the opening and closing ceremonies of the Beijing Olympics, so it's exciting just to think of the two teaming up. Reality, sad to say, is a bitch. This co-production between the US and China, the two leading spots on the map for mining gold at box office, is a $150 million mess of muddy 3D computer effects and backward thinking. Even in the Far East, where major local stars such as Hong Kong's Andy Lau are reduced to supporting roles, it still takes a white Hollywood movie star to save the world. Damon plays William, a 12th century European mercenary who's been dragging his ass in a phony ponytail across the deserts of western China looking for the mysterious black powder that can turn citizens of the globe into gun freaks. Aided by his Spanish best friend forever Tovar, Pedro Pascal, Goodwill is hunting for his fortune. But as they push toward the digitized Great Wall to make a deal, they're met by a spray of arrows indicating not so fast. Interlopers. Zhang keeps everything moving in a swirl of color, light and dizzying action, which helpfully distracts from a plot. Credited to 3 screenwriters, that doesn't make lick of sense. A lot of the actors, including Damon and Pascal, speak in a weirdly accented English that at times makes them sound dubbed. You probably won't notice because the stilted dialogue is drowned out by shrieking monster attacks. The Tull, as they're called, look like a combo of dinosaur and orc according to legend. They pounce like giant cockroaches every 60 years to thin out the human population. Not on Damon's watch. Tovar and a European turncoat, played by an understandably confused Willem Dafoe, plan an escape, but count on William to stay and fight the good fight against the aliens. He seems to be developing a thing for Lin Mei, Jing Tian, a female leader of the so-called Nameless Order, which includes a way cool team of armed female aerialists. Despite a few hot looks, however, sexy time is not an option for these two. Besides, it's hard to get it on when these beasties are crawling up the Great Wall, mouths agape and ready to chow down. That's the movie, folks. It plays like a video game in which the goal is to kill as many of these green-blooded monsters as you can before time's up. It's fun for about 10 minutes, and then the tedium seeps in. We do learn that a magnet has the power to lull the creatures to sleep, which is nothing considering that the movie all on its own acts a soporific. Many reviewers in China found it disappointing that all Zhang and Damon came up with is a B-level creature feature with delusions of grandeur in a move Trump would envy. The Chinese government quickly silenced the naysayers. It's getting hard out here for a critic. Number 3. When the first trailers for The Great Wall landed online, I, like many others, figured the film would be yet another white savior narrative a la The Last Samurai and Dances with Wolves. Matt Damon, one of the whitest white actors known to exist, starring in a Chinese-based film about Chinese mythology co-starring a battalion of Chinese acting talent, all directed by one of the industry's most credentialed Chinese filmmakers, Zhang Yimou, looked for all the world like exactly the type of film popular culture rails against these days. Yimou, a filmmaker I'm relatively ignorant of aside from Hero and House of Flying Daggers, both beautiful but emotionally weak films, in my opinion, brings the full box of tricks to this Hollywood-friendly action spectacle. Yet despite the inclusion of Matt Damon's bland-as-butter performance, The Great Wall remains largely ineffectual as a cinematic entertainment thanks to inept scripting and tonally inauspicious direction. Damon plays mercenary William Garrett, who, along with partner Pedro Pascal, travels through ancient China in search of magical black powder, gunpowder. Chancing upon the country's famous Great Wall, Gain and Tovar find themselves in the middle of a battle between a legion of soldiers defending the wall against an advancing army of creatures who only want to slaughter them. Proving their skill in battle, Garin and Tovar are granted a stay of imminent execution, and undertake to aid the army, led by Commander Lin Mei, Jing Tian, in their fight against the creatures' advance, lest they overrun the nearby city and decimate the earth. The Great Wall doesn't start well. A chase, lumbered with slow motion imposed for no apparent reason, guides us into the fray, before Damon's battered and grimy William Garrett plants his furrowed brow onto the screen in a mixture of confusion and awe. Exposition is rat-a-tat, with nuance and emotional weight absent and replaced by attention-grabbing expediency. Subtle, The Great Wall is not. It's a strange mixture of fantasy and action, adventure and bonkers war film, and while trying to be everything, too often is nothing. Nothing special, certainly considerably not worth the whitewashing protests that accompanied it into cinemas. Approximating the feeling of films such as Prince of Persia and the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, The Great Wall's gaggle platoon of effects and brimming Chinese casting makes for visually dynamic, sumptuous viewing. It's the film's emotional investment in character than things flail. The film's screenplay, co-scribed by Carlo Bernardi, Tony Gilroy and Doug Miro, puts our heroes into harm's way almost constantly, giving their respective backstory and arcs minimal development other than what's needed to move the story along. Damon's character transitions from rebellious scoundrel to morally upright hero within the blink of a pointless story twist, while Pedro Pascal's less upright Spaniard, Tovar, lacks even the most basic empathetic undertones. Willem Dafoe, about the only other actor in this film who isn't of Asian descent, plays a grizzled, conniving Westerner who knows the secret of the black powder, and can translate a lot of the Chinese dialogue for us, handily. But even he can't elevate his role beyond sidebar posture. The beautiful Jing Tian plays Damon's semi-romantic interest, the leader of the army guarding the wall. Lin Mei Tian's glowering sensuality is buried beneath armor so gorgeous it reminded me a lot of the elf stuff in Lord of the Rings. Production design is among the strongest elements of this film, particularly costuming and the spectacular sets, which are of a high standard indeed. Aiding this is some terrific cinematography by Stuart Dryburgh and Zhao, giving the movie an ethereal, romanticized feeling of prehistory. If only the creatures dominating much of the film's action sequences were quite as well developed. The visual effects are functionally impressive, although nowhere near a patch on westernized Hollywood blockbusters like Transformers. The creatures, named Doughties, are typical genre hive-like monsters, controlled by a queen, so the mission to destroy the queen and thus defeat the monsters is awfully generic, and reduces a lot of the film's tension, because you kinda know how it'll all end up, but offers effective design work nonetheless. They're never frightening, not really, and Zhang Yimou's tonal imbalance resolutely keeps them at a distance in terms of threat. The characters all say they're deadly dangerous, but aside from the swarming herd, similar to World War Z's zombie effects, one of the producers on this film actually developed that Brad Pitt Enterprise, so similarities are amusing indeed. Looking impressive, their impact in terms of amping up adrenaline is indifferent. It's pleasing that my fears about the film's white savior narrative proved unfounded. Damon's character isn't some well-knowing superhero who single-handedly defeats the threat. In actuality, he's pretty much lost without his Chinese allies on screen, and never once does hubris or arrogance attempt to do otherwise. The Great Wall's narrative is mundane, the direction is graciously beautiful without emotional resonance, and aside from solid production value, the film's inert adrenalized momentum robs the film of otherwise well-deserved kudos. As a slick, highly fantasized blockbuster, there's elements of The Great Wall that really work. Unfortunately, the bits that work do so independently of each other and never add up to a quality whole. Director, Bill Condon. Year of release, 2017. Principal cast, Emma Watson, Dan Stevens, Luke Evans, Kevin Kline, Josh Gad, Ewan McGregor, Ian McKellen, Stanley Tucci, Emma Thompson, Audra McDonald, Gugum Batha, Nathan Mack, Hattie Moorhan, Adrian Schiller, Gerard Horan, Hayden Quinn, Michael Gibson. Approx running time, 129 minutes. Synopsis: an adaptation of the fairy tale about a monstrous-looking prince and a young woman who fall in love. The Disney live-action money train continues to roll, as the studio presents another of its adaptations of previously animated material. This time, it's a remake of the 1991 Best Picture-nominated film Beauty the Beast, only now it stars Harry Potter actress Emma Watson as Belle, and Dan Stevens as the digitally augmented titular Beast. Directed by Twilight, Mr. Holmes and Dreamgirls Helmer Bill Condon, and co-starring a star-studded supporting cast, Beauty the Beast's larger-than-life Hollywood production value is first class, a thoroughly entertaining musical film that will delight both longtime fans of the material and those new to it. All of Alan Menken's tunes make a welcome return, now in Dolby Atmos sound, no less, and although following the animated version almost beat for beat, never feels simply rehashed or done as a cash grab. Belle, Emma Watson, lives with her widowed father, Kevin Kline, in a small village in central France. An enthusiastic reader and intellectual, Belle dreams of leaving the provincial lifestyle behind one day, much to the villagers' disparagement. Belle is romantically pursued by local hunk Gaston, Luke Evans, a pig-headed chauvinist who thinks way too highly of himself, while associate Liv, Frozen's Josh Gad, provides the dim-witted man with the sliver of common sense. When Belle discovers her father has been captured by a monstrous beast, Dan Stevens, in a mysterious castle, she offers herself as hostage in his place. At the castle, she learns that the beast is really a human prince cursed to live with a hideous visage as punishment for being a shallow, cocky asshole, because of course, while the castle's inhabitants have been turned into living furniture. Lumiere, Ewan McGregor, a candelabra, Mrs. Potts, Emma Thompson, and her son Chip, Nathan Mack, as a teapot and cup respectively, Cogsworth, Ian McKellen, a clock, and Polyamed, Gudumbathara, a feather duster. When the last petal of a magical rose falls, the beast will remain forever so, his only salvation the loving heart of a beautiful woman. As with any tale as old as time, see what I did there? Beauty the Beast continues to remain a popular fairy story thanks to the ubiquity of Disney's animated hit soaking into the pop culture firmament as the definitive edition. Every adaptation to come since has been, perhaps unfairly, compared to it, and retrospective reviews of past films have also had their share of commentary on worth against the Disney behemoth. Let's get the comparisons here out of the way. The 2017 live-action version of Beauty the Beast is easily the most entertaining variant of the story delivered to date, besting even the highly regarded French version from 2014, and in many ways improving on the animated film from which this draws so much creative impetus. One part living homage, another part total rip-off, Condon massages all the elements we adore about the animated film as well as a small number of new elements into charming, utterly delightful reprise of Belle's adventures with the Beast. A feast for the eyes and ears, Beauty the Beast's star-studded cast only aid in giving this film the maximum Hollywood magic possible to enthrall audiences and ensure high rotation in home cinema rooms around the globe. Emma Watson makes a strong-willed and capable Belle, remaining emotionally independent and never conceding captive attraction that would give rise to its often bemoaned Stockholm Syndrome critiques. Dan Stevens has a harder time as the Beast, a computer-generated character based on a mocap performance by the actor, and while I'd have thoroughly preferred perhaps some prosthetics to give it a lifelike visual feel, the design and execution of the Beast inside the computer is really pretty good. Stevens and Watson have a nice chemistry, and the screenplay sparkles with zest every time they're together. Any good fairy story needs a compelling villain, and there's perhaps no nastier villain in live-action Disney than Luke Evans' Gaston, personifying not only the physical attributes of the animated film's version of the character, right down to the ponytailed hairstyle, but the slimy, hubris-driven evilness of a man driven purely by ego, and Evans plays the role to the hilt. He's both amusingly dense and creepily evil, giving the character a real sense of weight and depth despite having almost no backstory or development beyond being a male foil for the Beast. Evans' performance of the film's musical numbers, particularly Gaston, are genuine highlights of the movie. Josh Gad, as Loehr, is absolutely pitch perfect as well, delivering a simpering yet morally ambivalent character who wants to be associated with Gaston's good points, but not so much Gaston's bad points. Populating the castle sequences in the film, the gamut of CG characters embodied by the top-line cast voices, including Ewan McGregor's unrecognizable turn as Loehr, with an impeccable French accent, Ian McKellen as the blustering Cogsworth, and Emma Thompson as Mrs. Potts. There's moments of laugh-out-loud humor and tinges of sadness threaded throughout, derived largely from the darker backstory of the Beast's past, and how it affects those around him. Although in keeping with the Disney tradition it's not too dark. Key moments from the animated film, such as the song and dance Be Our Guest musical number, and Gaston's braggadocio behavior, are wonderfully replicated by Condon's solid direction, although some moments in the film feel a touch awkwardly edited. Belle's reprise of her title song, for example, has shots in the sequence that feel a broken bar weird. Beauty the Beast wants not for production value, however, as everything from the stunning costuming, lavish set design and rampant CGI landscapes looks superb. The cinematography by Tobias Schliessler looks fantastic, the film given a real fantasy vibrancy and keen-edged crispness that delivers a real sense of animated activity for a live-action production. Alan Menken, returning to the music of his past, revamps his own score and songs for the film, along with Howard Ashman and Tim Rice, lyricists and composers on the animated movie, and giving the project a sense of legitimacy and that the soundtrack isn't just a cheap knockoff by the studio. Kudos to the entire cast for their performances and the songs, although it must be said that Emma Watson's vocal range isn't as strong as Peggy O'Hara's memorable work in the role. Condon turns this into a positive by making the character more charming all-round and allowing the weaker Watson vocals to feel more natural. I had a ball with Beauty the Beast. It's glossy, high-value entertainment that works and works and works, with memorable villains, terrific visual effects and solid chemistry between the lead performers. Beautifully filmed and boasting that instantly memorable soundtrack of songs, Beauty the Beast is another knockout hit from Disney as it continues to mine its animated past for billion-dollar grosses. Worth every cent. Now, bring on a live-action Sword in the Stone, I say. Principal cast: Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Catherine Keener, Caleb Landry Jones, Lil Rel Howery, Betty Gabriel, Marcus Henderson, Lakeith Stanfield, Stephen Root, Erica Alexander. Synopsis: a young African-American man visits his Caucasian girlfriend's mysterious family estate. Get Out is a film thick with menace, ghastly tension and an undercurrent of horrifying racial implication. It's a film not for the faint of heart, nor is it a film you should avoid because it's a horror, but rather it invokes horror elements as a tablecloth to its menu of social dissection, and front-page news congruence. Tiptoeing around the more obvious racial elements Get Out displays in digging its hooks into you as you watch. The film, written by director Jordan Peele, is both prescient to modern liberal savior complexes and a genuinely creepy, skin-crawling exercise in deviant terror. Get Out contains thematic similarities to genre standards such as Psycho, Misery, The Stepford Wives, a touch of Saw and Strangers, yet it retains a scintillating visceral aesthetic all its own. Peele's comedic work has never once elicited a strong reaction from me, but his efforts on Get Out have me extremely excited for what his future might entail. Black photographer Chris Washington, Daniel Kaluuya a kick-ass too, and his white girlfriend Rose Armitage, Allison Williams a girls, are a modern happy couple. Rose has invited him to spend the weekend at her parents' house in the country, something Chris is initially reticent about considering they're a mixed-race couple. Arriving at the Armitage residence, Chris meets Dean, Bradley Whitfield at a cabin in the woods, and his wife Missy, Catherine Keener where the wild things are, a psychiatrist/hypnotherapist, as well as Rose's brother Jeremy, Caleb Landry Jones. Chris also meets the Armitage's black servants, Georgina, Betty Gabriel, and Walter, Marcus Henderson, whose bizarre behaviors triggers alarm bells for the young man. So when Missy tricks Chris into being hypnotized, he suddenly discovers a horrifying secret from which he'll be lucky to escape alive. From its opening sequence of a random black man's kidnapping, to Chris and Rose's bloody trip to her folks' home, to the film's bloody, violent conclusion and all the twisty, creepy shit in between, Get Out is a tour de force from Jordan Peele that cannot be overstated. Comparisons to other directors' work will have to supplant my own inadequate descriptive skill set. Peele tapes into Hitchcock, Fincher, early Shyamalan, and even modern master James Wan in bringing Get Out's nerve-shredding arc to its full potency. And while it's an absolute pleasure to enjoy a film so perfectly directed, acted and produced, it also deserves plaudits for handling sensitive material with a degree of restraint. Get Out could be considered a formulaic blaxploitation film, maybe a reverse blaxploitation film. In many respects, the central premise, that a young black lad is fed to the lions of white middle-class suburban America and their inexcusably racist undertones, is something that resonates with white-hat alacrity. There are people still alive today who would find the notion of a black boy and a white girl being together is abhorrent, and it's this impenetrable veneer of human repulsiveness that Get Out taps into perfectly. That's not to say this is the only thing Get Out is about, because as the film draws closer to its climactic resolution we're shocked to learn that there's other things Peele has to say within his knockdown narrative, but the prickly tension between Chris and Rose's parents early in the film is indicative of the simmering social climate in certain parts of the world even today. The thing that makes Get Out work so damn well is largely its cast, all of whom deliver chilling and effective performances. Daniel Kaluuya hits the mark brilliantly as Chris, offering confusion, jaded downcast resignation and eventually a resilience we've not credited him with through his previous actions, as he brings an emotive and affecting portrayal of a man utterly betrayed. Allison Williams is the breath of sunshine in this opacally dark world Peele has created. This is the first role I've seen her in, and she has an ethereal quality not too dissimilar to Lake Bell or Amanda Peet, who could very well be sisters if you squint. And, as Rose offers the film a sense of safety in the early going, before the dark times, at least, Cinema stalwarts Bradley Whitford and Catherine Keener don't have to swing too far to play the creepy, and hell if they don't absolutely nail it. Smaller roles to Stephen Root, as a blind photography art dealer, Caleb Landry Jones as a skittish, Ward Armitage sibling, and Betty Gabriel as the female servant around the house, provide memorable moments in and of themselves, but Peele allows them to serve a greater purpose as pieces of the jigsaw he's crafted so well. Lastly, the film's comedy relief is stand-up comedian Loehr Howery, who plays Chris TSA buddy Rod. Peele disperses some nervous laughs between the shocks early in the film, while aiming for gut punches later on, and Howery delivers some nice tension-breaking humor. Perhaps most surprising to me, certainly in light of Peele's career until this moment, is how incredibly well Get Out is directed. It's a masterful horror film, bringing skin-tingling tension, awkward, hard-to-watch interplay between characters, and a sense of sublimely weird off-kilterness to the film's overtly serious style in a manner you'd expect from a veteran Helmer, not somebody for whom this was their debut feature. There's a mixture of jump scares, creepy shadow play and expertly crafted visual cues, such as the hypnosis aspects of the film's latter half, that work in concert with each other. Less effective horror films often use these tropes, and they are tropes, as a method of attacking the audience into fear, rather than enticing and inviting the viewer into a state of terror. Bless Jordan Peele for figuring out how to do the latter rather than the former. It's astonishing how well Get Out comes together to terrify and elicit several moments of fist-pump euphoria, and I mean no disrespect towards Peele in saying that. It's simply an observation that his film is one of the best horror films of the modern age, alongside recent entries like It Follows, The Babadook and The Witch, and is precisely so effective because it hones in on themes and elements of modern society that resonate so enormously with today's audiences. A captivating story, well-acted characters and razor-wire direction make Get Out a standout film and one of the best of the year to date. Rodney has been writing about films for well over 2 decades, appreciates a good wine, the love of his wife and kids, and the affection of his dog and cats. He has a fondness of cheesy 90s action and classic Hollywood, hates that physical media is disappearing, and wishes somebody would make a high-budget series of the never-ending story. Director, Russ Meyer. Year of release, 1965. Principal cast, Tura Satana, Haji, Laurie Williams, Susan Bernard, Stuart Lancaster, Paul Trinka, Dennis Bush, Ray Barlow, Mickey Fox, John Furlong. Approx running time, 83 minutes. Synopsis: 3 go-go dancers holding a young girl hostage come across a crippled old man living with his 2 sons in the desert. After learning he's hiding a sum of cash around, the woman starts scheming on him. Fast cars and even faster women. There's few films like Faster, Pussycat, Kill, the seminal 60s exploitation film directed by renowned Teddy Helmer. Russ Meyer. Frankly, it's an awful film, and for some reason has gained an inexplicable cult fame, perhaps deservedly so, but there's a kitschy appeal about Meyer's black and white direction and laughable script that works in a serendipitous B-movie way. It's a film about angles. Every second shot is designed to maximize the cleavage and sexuality of its trio of starlets, led by Tura Santana, who feel the need to wear skin-tight outfits through the Californian desert. So if you're into big-breasted vixens and corny, laughable dialogue delivered in that rat-a-tat manner the 60s enjoyed, you'll have a blast with this one. 3 go-go dancers, Varla, Tura Santana, Rosie, Haji, and Billy, Laurie Williams, are out in the Californian salt flats racing their cars, when they chance upon a young couple, Linda, Susan Bernard, and Tommy, Ray Barlow, who are out to test Tommy's car in a time trial. Violence ensues, with Varla breaking Tommy's neck. Fleeing, the trio kidnap Linda and discover an isolated farm inhabited by a supposedly wealthy father, Stuart Lancaster, and his 2 sons, one of whom is a dimwit, Dennis Bush. There's no denying the sheer awfulness of Pussycat's overall rationale for existing. It's a film designed to showcase the ample assets of stars Tura Santana, Haji, a Russ Meyer regular, and Laurie Williams, all of whom sports particularly tight clothing, if any at all, throughout the film's grindhouse story. Admittedly, one can watch this from the vantage point of history and admire its relative simplistic style, betwixt its horrifying misogyny and hilariously ripe dialogue, and enjoy the film for the time capsule it represents. Described by one reviewer in the 70s as nothing more than softcore porn, it isn't, it's nowhere near that, and lauded by fans of B-movie cinema in the decades since its release. Faster Pussycat's allure is simply its sexualized violent underpinnings and larger-than-life central caricatures, none of whom are particularly likable but all of whom are eminently watchable. Meyer's career in lowbrow exploitation cinema led to his epitaph partially reading King of the Nudies, "I was glad to do it." So you keeping that in mind, you know what kind of film Faster Pussycat is going to be: hypersexualized, largely to the point of calamitous silliness. The film's boobs and babes eroticism comes not from specific nudity or scenes of sexuality, but the raw femininity exuded by the quartet of females within it, the trio of modern exhibitionists in Varla, Rosie and Billy, and the bikini-wearing small-town gal, and unfortunate kidnap victim, Linda, and how Meyer reins them into his utterly bizarre get-rich-quick plot device. The opening narration, by John Furlong, specifically stipulates the long-held link between sex and violence, intimating to the no-doubt teenage audience who snuck into the cinema what they're expecting to see. Pussycat's 60s feel is derived largely from its cliché-ridden screenplay. The three lascivious vixens disperse all the classic American idioms of the period with the entendre-smooth delivery sultry sirens like them would enjoy. It's a script overripe with subtext, both sexual and otherwise, and you almost get the sense Meyer's delights in pushing the envelope of descriptive imagery through dialogue. Take this line from Stuart Lancaster's dinner table exchange with Santana's Varla: "What you eat seems to settle in the right places, but then you look to me like a girl with a big appetite for everything." Dear Lord, it doesn't get any more suggestive. It's as if a film was made entirely from quotable lines written by Austin Powers. The amateur filmmaker in me had to laugh a number of times at Meyer's clunky direction. To save time, every shot of people inside a moving vehicle is filmed against a stationary car that's being rocked by some grip or production assistant off-screen. It's a nostalgic element to the film that works wonderfully well, raises a chuckle, and somehow feels consistent with Pussycat's cheap aesthetic. There's also an absolute plethora of down blouse and ass shots in this film, to the point it's embarrassing watching in company. Boobs present as a method of storytelling, somehow, with even then 16-year-old Susan Bernard's lithe body coming in for a degree of attention by the cameraman. Meyers understood his audience, teenage boys, I gather, and plays for the cheap seats in every moment. The film's bruising car chases and stunts are well shot, and acted, particularly by Tura Santana, who famously performed all her own stunts, and there's just enough glimpses of side boob and bareback women to make even the most staid viewer blush. Shot in crisp black and white to save on costs, the filmmaker's use of desert and isolated locations accounts for a very secluded sense of menace throughout the movie. What doesn't work as well as the labored, jarring musical orchestrations, overblown pornesque melodies written by Paul Sawtell and Burt Schefter. Jazzy, bluesy, screeching delirium flits about almost constantly, a wailing, piercing music tone that never fits with the action in any way other than combative. Quentin Tarantino has often cited Pussycat as a film that inspired him, and one can see elements of this film in some of his work, particularly his grindhouse effort Death Proof. Indeed, much of both Tarantino and fellow trashploitation helmer Robert Rodriguez's careers have been made off the back of similarly garish, subtlety-free affairs. Rodriguez machete films elicit similar feelings of violent rampant excess, albeit to a far higher standard than Meyers was able to afford, and for the sheer fact of its influential nature and obvious sexual and violent depictions is enough to garner serious critical appraisal. Faster Pussycat, Kill, is first-class trash that delivers its salacious story with a vindictive, anti-establishment motif of feminine rage against the backdrop of virginal innocence. Sexually promiscuous women, dusty backwater locales and pulpy, greed-driven violence make for an enticing brew, and Pussycat's particular brand of entertainment runs the gauntlet between hideously malformed and barely competent, replacing intelligence with the pulsating animalism and exploitative visceralness that's alternately charming and horrifying. As a piece of American B-grade cinema, Pussycat is king of the hill, and Russ Meyer's powers were pretty close to his peak here. The combination of Tourist Santana's buxom femme fatale and Meyer's grisly, lewd cinematic prose makes for a film that's the distillation of all that I love about this kind of cheesy visual claptrap. Rodney has been writing about films for well over 2 decades, appreciates a good wine, the love of his wife and kids, and the affection of his dog and cats. He has a fondness of cheesy 90s action and classic Hollywood, hates that physical media is disappearing, and wishes somebody would make a high-budget series of the never-ending story. Principal cast: Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Chris Ludacris Bridges, Scott Eastwood, Natalie Emmanuel, Elsa Pataky, Kurt Russell, Charlize Theron, Diego Calderon, Christopher Hivju, Don Omar, Luke Evans, Helen Mirren. Synopsis: when a mysterious woman seduces Dom into the world of terrorism and the betrayal of those closest to him, the crew face trials that will test them as never before. As the modern pinnacle of big dumb fun, the Fast Furious movies continue to be an absolute goldmine for Universal, who would never have imagined their little car racing flick from 2001 would become one of the most successful and critically popular franchises not currently owned by Disney. If you can believe it, we're staring down the stick shift of the 8th film in this series, a staggering achievement for a franchise not Harry Potter or James Bond, and while many sagas of such venerability might sag or suffer the effects of wear and tear, magically the Furious lads just keep reinventing themselves. Even the tragedy of Paul Walker's passing couldn't dent the positivity surrounding Furious 7, bringing in over $1 billion globally to make it the most successful film in the saga. Fate of the Furious, which sees almost all the previous cast return in their respective roles, attempts to top the nutball stunts of its predecessors, including that hugely fun car-safe chase sequence from Fast 5, the They've Got Tank sequence in Fast 6, and the Twin Towers car jump scene in Fast 7, and give audiences the adrenalized cinematic thrills they've paid their money to see. Dominic Toretto, Diesel, and girlfriend Letty, Michelle Rodriguez, are whiling away their days in Cuba, when Dom is accosted by a mysterious cyber hacker known as Cypher, Charlize Theron, who turns him away from his family and crew. When Hobbs, Dwayne Johnson, and the rest of Dom's crew steal an EMP from a secret German location, Dom goes rogue and turns his back on his friends. Hobbs breaks free of imprisonment alongside Deckard Shaw, Jason Statham, and are seconded by Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell, to hunt down Dom and Cypher and retrieve the EMP, before it reduces a major city to a war zone. Vehicular mayhem never looked so great. Incoming director F. Gary Gray's turn at the helm of this destruction monster is an absolute blast. Thunderous, delirious, driven, by the franchise's long-running theme of family and delivering wholeheartedly on the promise of explosive, concussive fun, Fate of the Furious is slam-bang car carnage and by all that's holy it delivers. You'd never expect a Fast film to have any real kind of emotional wallop, given the films to date have leaned towards cardboard characters and the most tenuous of familial links. Through careful massaging, however, we've all come to love this motley crew and their various adventures, and through equally careful plotting we continue to give them a pass for their outlandish actions and behavior. Big dumb fun needn't be the tough mental slog of a Transformers movie, and the Furious film have proven this over and over. Because we care about these characters, we invest in their outcomes, and that makes us thrilled to their escapades. They could learn a thing or two from this stuff. Fate of the Furious tests out heroes by taking them out of their comfort zone. Kinda. Dom going rogue is explained in a way that feels natural, and as with previous films at least one supporting player bites it permanently. The stakes, as such, are raised considerably by the addition of both an EMP and the codes to a nuclear submarine's weaponry. Yep, Hobbs, Letty, Michelle Rodriguez, and the gang are trying to avert World War III. Joining Diesel, Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris and Johnson are newcomers Charlize Theron as the odious, truly nasty cipher, and Scott Eastwood as an underling of Kurt Russell's Mr. Nobody. Theron has a ball being totally evil, whilst Eastwood plays against type as the less experienced agent learning the rules of espionage. Game of Thrones actor Christoph Hivju also has a blast playing Cypher's sadistic enforcer, although his confrontation at film's end with Diesel isn't anywhere near as cathartic as I'd hoped it might be. Returning cast members also include Jason Statham as Deckard Shaw, Natalie Emmanuel as fellow hacker Ramsey, and a number of cameo appearances that link the threads of previous films together in a way that feels natural. There ain't no Academy Award-worthy acting here, but everyone does their job and does it well, and the focus can continue to be on the brain-melting action sequences. Speaking of action, F. Gary Gray's work here is thoroughly in keeping with the established franchise aesthetic. Gray's handling of the concussive action sequences, from the opening street race through Havana, to a New York pursuit and finally onto the ice fields of Russian territory, the film blasts along with barely a gasp for breath. Gray re-teams with the Italian Job star Theron to provide perhaps the nastiest villain in the franchise to date, and a man of parts Diesel and possibly the most humanizing version of Toretto we've seen thus far. This isn't to say walking block of timber Diesel deviates from the established role he's honed over the last 16 years, but the addition of the film's central story element, no spoilers, brings with it a natural maturation for Dam that could pave the way for more interesting, if typically superficial, character development down the track. Gray amps up the tension and thrills with possibly the most muscular directorial effort since John Singleton's Too Fast Too Furious, whereas previous directorial stalwart Justin Lin's flashy, neon-infused style in Fast 7's James Wan's Flight of Fancy tinged with sadness effort righted a ship lurching badly following Tokyo Drift's lackluster appeal. Gray's established Hollywood style and solid, frictionless ability to coherently display the most incoherent physics-defying screen events yet grant him latitude to flex his popcorn flick muscle. Not since the aforementioned The Italian Job, which, I might add, also re-teams the director with Jason Statham, has Gray's stewardship of a film felt so effortless, although in fairness Straight Outta Compton was an entirely different kind of film. It's good to see the man who gave us The Negotiator and Law-Abiding Citizen return to a genre of film with which he's unfettered by restraint. Fate of the Furious is the very antithesis of restraint. MacGuffins aside, Fate of the Furious' jaw-dropping stunt sequences and pulse-pounding multi-thread narratives make for compulsive, explosive viewing. Comparisons with previous films in the franchise are inevitable at this point, and I'm loath to suggest the 8th film is the equal of the bogglingly insane stuff we saw in the previous 2 films at least, but Fate stands as a film that sits comfortably within that universe and offers enjoyment, escapism and entertainment of the highest order. Load it up, lock it in, and enjoy. Rodney has been writing about films for well over 2 decades, appreciates a good wine, the love of his wife and kids, and the affection of his dog and cats. He has a fondness of cheesy 90s action and classic Hollywood, hates that physical media is disappearing, and wishes somebody would make a high-budget series of the never-ending story. Principal cast: Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Robin Wright, Danny Huston, David Thewlis, Connie Nielsen, Elena Anaya, Lucy Davis, Saetilda Macron de Tagmui, Ewan Bremner, Eugene Brave Rock, Lily Aspel, Emily Carey. Synopsis: before she was Wonder Woman she was Diana, Princess of the Amazons, and a train warrior. When a pilot crashes and tells of conflict in the outside world, she leaves home to fight a war to end all wars, discovering her full powers and true destiny. The 4th of DC Comics' DC franchise following Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad. It's fair to say there's a fair bit resting on the outcome of Gal Gadot's solo film Wonder Woman. Whereas neither Zack Snyder's or David Ayer's films were met with overwhelming critical praise, and in the case of Suicide Squad, the exact opposite. Incoming director Patty Jenkins, last seen guiding Charlize Theron to Oscar glory in Monster, had the chance to summon all the goodwill for this iconic comic book character and deliver a rousing spectacle film that would right the hitherto wobbly ship that was Warner Brothers' attempt to mimic Marvel's successful MCU. Gadot was rightly singled out as one of the truly positive notes in Batman v Superman. Now she has the chance to a broken bar, flex her muscles in her own movie and showcase the best DC had to offer. Wonder Woman is set during the final days of the Great War, which has plunged Europe into a deadly conflict the likes of which have never been seen before. Hidden away from the world of mankind is the island of Themyscira, home to the Amazons, a race of warrior women created by Zeus to protect humankind against the evils of Ares, god of war. A young princess, Diana, Gal Gadot in adult form, as well as Lily Aspel and Emily Carey in earlier stages of her life, yearns to learn to defend her home against Ares' possible return. Over the protests of her mother, Queen Helita, Connie Nielsen a gladiator, and at the behest of her aunt, General Antiope, Robin writes a House of Cards, Forrest Gump. When U.S. pilot Steve Trevor, Chris Pine's Star Trek, Hell or High Water, crash lands his plane off the coast of Themyscira, leading pursuing German troops to attack, Diana is forced to reconcile her mother's wish to remain absent human contact with her desire to aid mankind in defeating the rise of Ares once again. Diana leaves the island with Steve, returning to London where both she and Rogers begin a mission undertaken to locate the German General Erich Ludendorff. Danny Houston, a 30 Days of Night, who is working with chemist Isabel Maru, Elena Anaya a room in Rome, to develop even deadlier chemical weapons to defeat the Allies and ruin the possible armistice. Aiding Diana and Steve on their mission are Steve's secretary Etta Candy, Lucy Davis, and Sir Patrick Morgan, David Thewlis a Harry Potter, divorcing Jack, as well as a trio of fellow spies in Samir, Tilda Macron de Taghamui a Conan the Barbarian, Vantage Point, Charlie, Ewan Bremner a Trainspotting, Pearl Harbor, and Chief, Eugene Brave Rock. Amidst the blaze of internet publicity, or lack of, if you believe some quarters of the online fandom, and controversial women-only screenings that provoked man-child outrage across the globe. Really, guys, really? Wonder Woman stands tall not only as a self-contained adventure film about its title character, but is easily the best of the DC films to date. Some might argue that isn't a high bar of achievement considering the blasting the previous three received critically, but even the hater will have to admit that Patty Jenkins' achievement here is nothing short of phenomenal. Not only did Wonder Woman have to sell the backstory of Diana's origin, it also had to deliver slam-bang action as well as a genuinely emotional story about a woman who knowingly leaves home to help humanity in its darkest hour. To say it does so with complete authority is an understatement. Wonder Woman is as pure a superhero film as you'll find in this age of depressing angst-ridden installments of the DC, and even recent Marvel films. If you look closely, thumbing its nose at world-building convention and instead striking its own path to cinematic legacy. There are so many positives to Wonder Woman it's hard to know where to begin. For a female-driven film, you'd expect the studio to mandate some kind of feminist statement within it somewhere, an obvious women are awesome homily that would rankle with obviousness and cantilevered virtue signaling. And yet this never occurs. What little pointed moments about female strength are derived largely from Diana's actions and emotional arc, rather than a politicized moment that feels disingenuous. The screenplay, by Alan Heinberg, who previously penned a 5-issue run of the Wonder Woman comic following its post-Infinite Crisis relaunch, touches on Diana's mythical ancestry, with her creation by Helida out of clay a recurring liturgical motif establishing her otherworldliness against her Amazonian sisters. This sense of history, vague as it might be, automatically gives Diana a Christ-like figurehead of matriarchal dominion, and gives weight to her arc later in the film where her actual parentage is revealed. Non-comic book readers will be surprised, although I doubt hardcore DC fans will raise an eyebrow. Heinberg writes this story using a fair degree of fish-out-of-water humor, and indeed a lot of Wonder Woman's laughs are generated by Diana's insistence in breaching early 1900 social and political protocols continually. Although it's pleasing to see there's never any backhanded snark to it, It's all gentle fun. Diana's femininity is never questioned, and the men she's surrounded by later in this film are obviously quick to realize she can handle herself in what is to them a man's world of death and destruction. Diana's arc revolves around helping mankind and destroying Ares, whom she believes to be the inciter of the war itself. This is both a tragic and uplifting aspect to Wonder Woman's narrative, and the film's emotional core revolves around it. Wonder Woman comes to man's world to be a beacon, a ray of light in a terrible darkness, and she does become just that. A key scene, hinted at in the numerous promotional trailers, has Diana strutting out across a literal no-man's land of the war, the Western Front, swatting bullets and grenades aside as she makes for the German lines. It's a glorious moment in this film, the glint of gold, red and blue shattering the bland grey of wartime Europe. Her relative innocence to man's depravity yet to be sullied, coupled with Rupert Gregson Williams' thunderous score, which utilizes that terrific Hans Zimmer musical theme for Wonder Woman superbly. It's one of the true highlights in a film filled with them. It's emblematic of both the character and the story Jenkins is telling. Yet Wonder Woman never panders to condescend. The film never talks down to its audience, never snarks or snidely repudiates a moral high ground, and it never once attempts to hammer home a political, social or sexual point. Both Diana and the supporting cast, from Chris Pine's Steve Trevor down to Lucy Davis' hilarious Etta Candy, are all equal in the eyes of this film. Steve blusters about as Diana matches wits and barbs with him, as well as softening to understand more about the world she's entered, but he's never cavalier or superior to her, nor she to him. They both have a job to do in the story, and they do it. Among the film's many delights is the opening backstory set on Diana's homeland, Themyscira, an all-female warrior society containing elements of producer Zack Snyder's 300. Wolfgang Petersen's Troy and a bunch of ass-kicking take-no-prisoners battle prowess. Connie Nielsen delivers a solid performance as Helita, the Amazonian queen who wants to protect Diana from knowing about her true nature. This nature is revealed in the film's climactic finale, and basically keep her bottled up Rapunzel style on the island. Robin Wright looks positively ripped as Antiope, the headstrong battle-hardened chief of Helita's army, and her relationship with Diana is akin to that between Luke and Obi-Wan, only rougher. Much rougher. The Themyscira set act of the film really lays the groundwork for all that follows, not only with Diana and Steve's growing bond. An early scene sees Diana discover Steve au natural, which provoked many laughs in my screening, as well as providing the grand mythic foundation for the progressive savior mission Diana undertakes. People were concerned when Gal Gadot was cast as Diana for a number of reasons, chief among them her ability to act well enough to provide one of comics' most enduring female hero icons with the gravitas and emotional range modern audiences expect. Gadot's smaller parts in the 3 Fast Furious films she appeared in, as well as the crime thriller 999, were viewed as a litmus test to her capabilities, and one could argue that she might have fumbled the part were she given the wrong material to work with. Gadot's abilities as an emotive actress aren't as strong as her physicality. She spent 2 years as a combat instructor in the Israeli military. Did you know that? But Jenkins works to her strengths to wit, surrounding her with quality supporting cast who can elevate the material instead. As Diana, Gadot is terrific, imbuing the character with warmth and otherworldliness that manifests as innocence rather than arrogance. The Wonder Woman I always seemed to see whenever I read the comics felt a touch out of touch, if that makes sense, not in a way that's endearing, like it is here, but rather in a manner that defeats the purpose of her very existence. Gadot's emotional range abilities aren't as strong as I'd have liked, sure. But by golly you'd hardly care given all that's asked of her in this role. She kicked ass in Batman v Superman, and she smokes the opposition in her first solo adventure. The adulation surrounding Wonder Woman should rightly be leveled at the feet of director Patty Jenkins, who crafts a film of both wit. The film is filled with laughs, some strong and some not so much, and adventure. A high-octane rollicking wartime superhero movie that wears its heart on its sleeve and never once apologizes for it. Wonder Woman is a pure comic book movie. It's on par with Christopher Reeve's Superman, or Captain America, the First Avenger. In fact, This film bears some remarkable similarities to the debut of Steve Rogers in the MCU, in that it establishes a truth to the title character that emblazons itself across the screen in every frame. If there's a fault to the film, it's in the third act, where the key villain is revealed and the battle antics rise up a notch to Man of Steel Destructo levels, and things get a little loud, but it's a minor aspect to an otherwise beautiful, thoughtful, euphoric story of compassion, human empathy and strength. Diana is a warrior and a woman, inextricably intertwined elements of the same person, neither being a weakness and both unalterably strong. Comparisons are the weaker critic's tools of trade, and I'm loath to suggest Wonder Woman is the best comic book film of 2017. It is, hell, it's very nearly the best film of 2017 so far, but Patty Jenkins has most definitely reset the course for the DC going forward, and resurrected my waning interest in these properties following whatever the hell Suicide Squad wanted to be. Wonder Woman is delightful, exciting, I repeat, it's fist-pumping wonderful with a capital W, and refreshing against a backdrop of interlocking films and universe-building storytelling where characters are sacrificed their moments to serve a larger corporate interest. You should see Wonder Woman as soon as you possibly can. Rodney has been writing about films for well over 2 decades, appreciates a good wine, the love of his wife and kids, and the affection of his dog and cats. He has a fondness of cheesy 90s action and classic Hollywood, hates that physical media is disappearing, and wishes somebody would make a high-budget series of the never-ending story. Number 4. The Great Wall, Template ZH, is a 2016 action monster film directed by Zhang Yimou, with a screenplay by Carlo Bernard, Doug Miro and Tony Gilroy, from a story by Max Brooks, Edward Zwick and Marshall Herskovitz. It is an American-Chinese co-production starring Matt Damon, Jing Tian, Pedro Pascal, Willem Dafoe, and Andy Lau. The Great Wall is Zhang's first English-language film. 7. Principal photography for the film began on March 30, 2015, in Qingdao, China, and it premiered in Beijing in China on December 16, 2016, and in the United States on February 17, 2017 by Universal Pictures. The film received mixed reviews from critics, who said it sacrifices great story for great action. 8. Although it grossed $335 million worldwide, the film was still considered a box office bomb due to its high production and marketing costs, with losses as high as $75 million. European mercenaries, including Irishman William Guerin and Spaniard Pedro Tovar, traveled to China during the reign of the Song dynasty's Xuanzong Emperor, searching for the secret to gunpowder. A few miles north of the Great Wall, they are attacked by a monster. Only William and Tovar survive. They sever the monster's arm and bring it with them. Reaching the wall, they are taken prisoner by soldiers of the Nameless Order, led by General Zhao and strategist Wang. The Nameless Order exists to combat alien monsters called Tull, which attack once every 60 years. 9. The Tull arrived from a meteorite. While examining the severed monster arm, the Order's commanders are surprised by the monster's first assault 1 week early. Shortly after, a monster horde assails the wall. Both sides sustain heavy losses before the monster's queen aborts the attack. During the battle, William and Tovar are freed by Ballard, another European who ventured east 25 years earlier, searching for gunpowder. Detained, he now serves as an English and Latin teacher. William and Tovar display amazing battle skills, saving the life of young warrior Peng Yong, then slaying 2 monsters, which earns the Order's respect. The 3 Europeans secretly plan to steal gunpowder and flee during the next monster attack. That night, 2 Tau reach the top of the wall. General Zhao is killed, placing Commander Lin in charge of the Nameless Order. Around this time, an envoy from the capital arrives with an ancient scroll which suggests that the monsters are pacified by magnets. Wang believes the stone William carries enabled him to slay the Tau he fought at the cave. To test the hypothesis, William suggests they capture a Tau alive and agrees to help. This delays his escape plans, angering Tovar, who nevertheless assists William despite Ballard's protests. During the next attack, the Tau are numerous enough to cause Lin to resort to using arrows equipped with black powder, whose capabilities had been kept secret from the Westerners until now. They capture a living Tao and prove the theory. However, the imperial envoy claims the monster and takes it to the capital to present to the emperor. A tunnel is discovered at the base of the wall. The previous attacks had been a distraction so that the Tao could dig the tunnel. While Lin investigates, Tovar and Ballard steal a supply of black powder and escape, knocking William unconscious for trying to stop them. William is arrested by the Nameless Order, and is locked up in the wall. Some distance away, Ballard betrays and abandons Tovar, but is captured by bandits, who accidentally kill themselves and Ballard after igniting the powder. At the capital, the envoy presents the captive Tao to the emperor and his entourage, but it awakens and reveals its position to its queen, who signals the Tao to attack. The order rushes to the capital. Lin orders the use of hot air balloons, and before setting out, Lin sets William free. Wang tells him to warn the outside world, but William boards the last balloon with Peng and Wang. They arrive just in time to save Lin from being devoured. They land in the emperor's palace, where Wang proposes killing the queen by tying explosives to the captured Tao and giving it meat to be delivered to the queen. While approaching the site, a horde of Tao attack the band, and Peng sacrifices himself to save the others. After releasing the Tao, Lin and William climb a tower so that William can detonate the explosives with an arrow. Wang sacrifices himself to buy time for Lin and William to reach the upper floors. Two of William's arrows are deflected by the Tao Queen's bodyguards, but William throws the magnet into the horde, creating a gap in the shields, allowing Lin's spear to get through. The queen is killed, and the rest of the horde is paralyzed. With the threat eliminated, William is allowed to return home and elects to take Tovar, whom the Nameless Order recaptured, with him instead of a reward of black powder, much to Tovar's annoyance. Number 5. The Great Wall has its faults, but if one can look past them and appreciate the movie on a surface level, it is a very enjoyable film. This post contains spoilers for The Great Wall. Proceed with caution. The Great Wall entered my radar when accusations of whitewashing surfaced online. Even the trailer made the movie come across as a story that had Matt Damon helping the Chinese army survive a monster attack. He does help a lot, but the actual movie makes more sense than what the trailer might imply, especially about the film being white male-centric. Other than Matt Damon, Willem Dafoe, and Pedro Pascal, the entire film has actors of Chinese heritage in important military positions. I get that Matt Damon was cast to appeal to a broader audience, but I don't think it was a case of extreme whitewashing, especially not on the level of Gods of Egypt and Exodus, Gods and Kings. William, Matt Damon, and Pedro Pascal, are shown as outsiders who come to China for black powder. It is through them the audience gets to know about the Tao species attacking the Great Wall of China once every 60 years. The Chinese army is shown to be well-disciplined, and extremely color-coordinated. What I couldn't understand was why the blue theme crane group was exclusive to just women. Can't man be graceful enough to do superhuman acrobatic moves using elastic cords? Regardless, the choreography of the action sequences is very impressive. Also, I was surprised to see the Great Wall not focusing too much on William's romantic pairing with General Lin Jing Tian. There was definitely a spark between the two, but it was refreshing to see the writers taking General Lin's role seriously as the protector of China rather than making her pursue her romantic feelings without making sense. There wasn't even a hug between the two. That is why I liked how the writers handled Lin's character. We saw her rise in rank throughout the film, helping William land the last hit against the alien queen, and ultimately being promoted to regional marshal. Developing a romance between her and William during an alien invasion would have taken a lot away from Lin being her own character. As far as the plot is concerned, it isn't too complex. Humanity's greed led to a meteor hitting Earth, and every 60 years the aliens attacked the Great Wall of China, multiplying in numbers each time. The queen needs to be defeated to end the attacks, and that's what William helps the Chinese army accomplish. Before I end my review, I would like to talk about Matt Damon's hair. I don't know if it was his real hair or a wig, but the fact that his hairline looked inconsistent throughout the film distracted me a lot. Sometimes his hairline would recede while in other scenes it would be covering most of his forehead. The hairstyling department needs to get its act together. All in all, The Great War is an enjoyable big-screen film with impressive CGI and fight sequences. There isn't much to bite into with regards to plot and character development, but I guess that wasn't what this film was made for in the first place. It is a popcorn movie that provides you around an hour and a half of fun content.